Hey, everybody, and welcome to another Fierce, Fabulous Fridays here at Girls Who Print. Today, the topic is straightening crowns. Um, and I will welcome our panelists here in a moment, but I do want to make just a couple quick announcements. For those of you that don't know or who are newer to Girls Who Print, we have a thriving mentorship program. It is free, it is open to everyone, and I myself do the matching. So you can head over to girlswhoprint.org and click on the mentorship button to find out more about that. And you can either apply to be a mentor, get a mentor, or both. So it's a super important program. We've matched hundreds of pairs over the last several years. So I do want to invite everybody to get involved in that. In fact, I believe some of the people that you see on the screen right now are actually currently mentors. Part 3 of our membership bonus session of Sarah O'Hannison of So Productive is coming up on August 21st at 1 p.m. Eastern. It is the third part of the Productivity Pitfalls webinar series that is for members of Girls Who Print. And the session 3 is the Push It Protocol. Why do we keep rescheduling the same tasks? How can we stop? And you'll get a step-by-step system for breaking through task avoidance, limiting overwhelm, and finally tackling the work that's been haunting your to-do list. We also have Fierce Fabulous Fridays coming up on September 19th and October 31st. And spoiler alert, some of us will be in costume for the October 31st one. So please consider joining us for that. It's going to be super fun. And there's a really big movie that part 2 is coming out this fall that maybe some of you heard about. It might be a musical and it might involve witches. I don't know. But that's going to be super fun. So please join us there. And Deborah's putting a bunch of links in the chat right now. Deborah is personing the chat for me, so she'll be letting people in and including all of the information that you need to know, including how to become a member of Girls Who Print if you are not already. So that being said, I am going to introduce you to the 3 fantastic panelists you see before you today. The first one being Elisha Kasinskas. She is an award-winning software and high-tech marketer. She has worked in marketing, product management, sales, lead gen, and communications in a variety of industries. Most recently, she was in print and mail industry for 15 years for BCC and RSA. We do love our acronyms in the printing industry, don't we, y'all? So Leisha holds an RIT MBA and a BS marketing from Radford University. So she's a super big underachiever. She's a frequent moderator for print industry speaking sessions, a blogger, and launched Distinctive Chameleon Marketing in 2024. The consultancy offers strategic marketing services to firms who want to increase leads, grow sales, and customer retention, and elevate their firm through marketing. So please make sure you connect with Leisha. I've known her for quite some time, and her information is in the chat. Next up, we have Michelle Dotinga of HP. Michelle has been working in the printing industry for over 25 years and specializes in working with buyers who are looking for print production equipment to enhance their digital print business and looking to diversify business portfolio and drive the competitive advantage. This is my favorite part. When Michelle is not selling, she's volunteering for a nonprofit organization fostering kittens. Deborah, don't freak out. Deborah has 2 very, very famous cats residing in her household. So she fosters these kitties, gets them healthy and ready to adopt from 6 to 12 weeks, which is probably the hardest part of raising a cat. I know you're not a cat lady, Deborah. I'm just kidding. And last and certainly not least, we have Anna Frias, who's a rising junior at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. I'm not sure how you say that, right? Sorry, California. She's majoring in graphic communications with a minor in entrepreneurship, which I think that sounds like the most fantastic combination ever. She's the general manager of the Cal Poly student-run print shop. Folks, I want this person fielding multiple offers upon graduation. I'm not kidding about this. This should be like the NFL draft, right? We're going to have a draft party for all of these people when they graduate. Absolutely fantastic. So she is the manager of the student-run print shop called University Graphic Systems. She has a passion for the printing industry, marketing, and has managerial aspirations. Again, folks, pay attention. Once she completes her undergraduate studies, she plans to pursue her MBA at Cal Poly, and her contact information is above. So welcome, welcome, welcome to all of you. It's so good to see you all here. Thank you for being with us today. So when I started thinking about the topic of this, and I glommed onto this concept of straightening crowns, I recognized that that sounds a little, as Deborah likes to call it, woo woo, or maybe a little bit on the softer side. But I wanted to really create a world in which there's a statistical framework around why networks and supporting each other is so important. So I am going to read you a couple of statistics. It should only take a couple of minutes. Women remain underrepresented at higher leadership levels, largely due to systemic barriers. For every 100 women promoted to manager, only 81 women are promoted, and that gap is even wider for women of color. It's called a broken rung, and it makes it critical for women to help each other through mentorship and access to opportunities. Research shows that over 80% of women leaders rely on networking to propel their careers. And when that gets to C-suite, it goes up to 84 to 90%. We need each other. We need to network with each other. We need to lift each other up. We need to support one another. And that goes for C-suite roles and board positions. Women with strong networks are more likely to achieve senior leadership roles and navigate workplace challenges successfully. And finally, supportive relationships among women boost job satisfaction and retention. Gallup found women who feel supported and able to maintain work-life balance are 50% more likely to be thriving in life, more than twice as likely to be engaged at work, and 38% less likely to be actively seeking a new job. This is not a female issue. This is a human issue, right? This means that these kinds of things that we're going to be talking about today are about company culture. They're about retaining employees. So if you're a manager, if you're an owner of a company, whether you are a male or a female, you should be paying very close attention to what we're going to talk about today. So that being said, we're going to go right into our first question. And Leisha, we're going to start with you on this one. What specific actions can women take to support one another's growth and visibility at work?
Yeah, I've been giving this a lot of thought. It's just being there for each other and listening to those little cues. I've done some things in the last couple of days. It's on my mind a lot anyway, but even more so recently. I see somebody who's having an issue, or you can just kind of read between the lines, and I just reach out to them and say, hey, it's not even just I hear you. It's like, what can I do to help? We're in this together.
Right. You see it, you hear it, and you sense it, right? Like that's really important. Sometimes it's not something that someone actually comes right out and says to you. It's like you can just kind of tell, like you said, reading between the lines by the way they're carrying themselves, by the way they're moving, things like that, which is great if you're in person with somebody, but you also might notice it on a Zoom call as well. Anna, how about you? Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Leisha. I think it's one of those things too of we're here to support each other. I feel like a lot of people can, especially women, accidentally fall into the mindset of, no, I have to keep this information to myself because I need to succeed. And like, I have to keep that so I can keep going. You know what I mean? But that defeats the whole purpose. And you're going to succeed more if you share that information. So I think just putting that hand out there and just sharing what you know to build each other up.
Awesome. Michelle, how about you? You have anything to add?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the question. Great question. So I have an example. We have groups of internships and younger generation that starts, and sometimes they started with internships or contractors. And recently, I noticed some of our members were having a hard time navigating through things like being on conference calls and listening to a lot of acronyms that they may not know anything about. So I reached out to one of them, and even though she didn't ask to be mentored, we intuitively started the mentorship just so that we could go through navigating things together, knowing that she's new to the industry and younger and needed to kind of immerse herself as much as possible. So that's one way that I feel we can contribute. Sometimes people don't ask to be mentored and they don't know that they could ask because this might be their first job or second job. So instead of waiting for them to ask, we could jump in and say, hey, I have some ideas I'd like to share. How can I support you?
So good. And yeah, I mean, sometimes I think it is about offering it for sure, or and understanding that it's also okay if they, maybe don't recognize that or something like that. And I think too, when we're in situations where there's more that, I know some people, women come to me all the time and say like, I'm the only one in that room, right? I'm the only woman. But
Mhm.
there's also those times of like recognizing that person is interrupting that person a lot, and to kind of just very kindly and gently, quite frankly, say like, hey, it seemed like Michelle was not done speaking. Can we let her finish?
Yes.
Right? Because especially to your point too about and it isn't always, I see plenty of younger people who are very confident and wouldn't have any problem stepping up and defending themselves. But it is just that notion of like, I wasn't finished, right? And sometimes I joke about the fact that if I had a time machine, I would go back to so many times that those where I didn't
Mhm.
speak up for myself, or I didn't speak up for somebody else, and say, boy, I really wish that I had that sensibility that those kinds of things were okay. So yeah, it's so what I'm generally hearing is that it's when we see people, it's offering, right? It's that kind of proposing of support and resources, and just that general thing of like, hey, you look like you might be struggling a little bit. And I know that Deborah and I had a call. I can't remember who we were talking to, but it might have been on Charlotte Tuckmantle's sessions where we talked about, I have not been able to find a better word than struggling, right? Like when you're having a difficult time, like I would love to be able to find a different word than struggle, but that's just, it feels like such a true, really authentic word, right? And to say that it is okay when that happens. It's normal to struggle. Not everything in life is easy, but in that world of like developing a strong network, and that's what we're doing for each other even in this moment, right? You all know that from this moment forward, I'm on your bench, right? I will be there to help you. And I would kind of hope the same thing for me from all of you. So, we think about wanting to know people in different roles and know people at different stages of their career. And I will tell you this, I learn as much from my mentees and then the interns that I've been working with and stuff like that. It has been an extremely mutually beneficial situation. So being a mentor, I get just as much out of it, right? So we'll move on to the next question. In what ways can the organizations foster a culture where women feel empowered to lift each other up? Michelle, let's start with you on this one.
As for organizations, so I what I have seen and noticed in our industry specifically is finally it's happened in the past few years that a lot of our manufacturers have finally aligned themselves with groups like Girls Who Print and others that foster support for women focused in this industry. And that has really helped bring some awareness and support. So there's a place where we can connect, right? This is a place where we can connect as Girls Who Print. In fact, when I was preparing for today's meeting, I had a conflict, and I had mentioned to a coworker that I was doing this webinar, and he said, "Well, what group is this?" And I said, "It's Girls Who Print." And he's like, "I didn't know that existed." And I'm like, "Yeah, we need more awareness, even for the guys, right? There is a group, and it's focused on Girls Who Print." So our organizations, manufacturers, leaders aligning themselves with organizations like this is one way to support women that are the only one in the group, the only one in that meeting, and they don't get to bounce ideas off of each other like we get to do here. So that's one thought.
Yeah, awesome. Anna, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, especially as someone who isn't really in the industry yet per se officially, I think it makes it feel a lot less daunting knowing there's companies out there who are aligning with Girls Who Print, so or like other organizations like that. So just continuing to do that, it just feels so much better, and I love the support, and like everyone should be aware of it. Like Michelle was saying, like it's not just for girls, like it's not just for women, like it's for everyone, and I think that's super important. There was something else I was going to say, but I forgot. Maybe we'll
Well,
move on to Leisha and I can come
and
back.
and you know what though, Anna, too, there are more women in graphic communications programs
Yes,
in college right now,
that's
right?
what it was. Thank you. Yes,
Okay.
that's what I was going to say. Yes, I'm very fortunate in the fact that Cal Poly, our graphic communication, is very female dominated. So you go
Mhm.
into class and it's super easy to have these bouncing off conversations. It's super encouraging. And then just recently, I was lucky enough to go to the D Scoop Edge Long Beach conference. And that honestly really felt like a culture shock to me in a sense because I walked into this giant showroom and it's all men. And so that was really, really like, oh, wow, I forgot about that. Like, I got so comfortable with the fact of being surrounded by girls who support each other in college. It's so easy to bounce off ideas. They get you. So I think that's really what makes it so much less daunting, is knowing certain industries are aligning with organizations like Girls Who Print. And I think it's something we just need to keep doing, and companies should be flaunting it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. I don't know if you would, because Michelle was there at D Scoop as well,
Mhm.
as was
Oh, okay.
I. And I don't know if you guys, if you two ran into each other, but I think too, the takeaway for employers is that those things matter to candidates, right? So for example, if you're looking at a
Mhm.
website of a potential employer and it's got the Girls Who Print logo on it, that's like a beacon, right? It's like a
Yes.
signal. It's a signal to them that you're like, they're one of the good ones, right? They are aligning
Right.
themselves, which is really, I'm so glad you said that, Anna, because I
Hmm.
hadn't even really thought of it that way. So, Leisha, what do you want to add to what the orgs can do, what the companies can do to foster this culture?
Two things. One, Anna mentioned being comfortable. I think if you have it happen from the top, then everybody's comfortable in working in this capacity, in this way where you're lifting each other up, and it's okay. You're not feeling like you're the only person echoing in an echo chamber. So I think that's kind of how I would sum it up: is, make it the norm, have it come from the top so that everyone's comfortable.
Yeah, that's really good. Anything else to add there?
No, I'll keep it short.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. So our third and final question, we're really blazing through this, so we'll leave some time at the end for conversation if anybody has anything they want to talk about. But how do acts of encouragement or mentorship among women help break down stereotypes and biases in the workplace? Anna, let's start. I know this is going to be a little bit of a tough one for you. This might be a little
Yeah.
more theoretical, but even, I mean, being the manager of a print shop, I mean, that is a
Yeah.
workplace, right? It's your education place and your workplace at the same time. So go ahead.
Yeah, this one was definitely one I really had to sit on and think about it, because again, like, I am in that print shop world, but again, like I mentioned in the last question, it's so female dominated. We're a team of 10, eight out of the 10 are women. So it's a very comfortable space already. But I think by having these mentorships and encouragement stuff, it can break down the stereotypes of women, like, just the common stereotypes of women not knowing how to communicate, or like Kelly, we were talking about this in our prep meeting for this, about being mindful of the language we use, about like, oh, they're gossipers. And I think having stuff like this will kind of help eliminate that language. And just because it's true, it's because I feel like there's always been a thing of like, women who work hard or put all this extra effort, they get these negative adjectives associated with them. But I feel like if we have more women doing it and we sort of normalize it, I hate that we have to normalize it, but if we do that, I think it would
Mhm.
break those stereotypes and biases, and we don't have to be having these kinds of conversations so much. But
Boy, that is so unbelievably important. We talk about like calling girls bossy, right? Or
yes.
that a confident woman is aggressive, right?
Yeah.
There's all these, it is so wild that we're still having these conversations all the time. And I do just want to add a couple of things. So that self-referential language is super important too, right?
Yes.
And because I've some of the interns I've been working with, it's like, what is a word for having a really friendly, outgoing personality, right? Bubbly. And so this one young woman I've been working with, and when I said, like, have you ever heard a man refer to himself as bubbly, right? And these are just, again, it's not like we have to make an absolute prohibition against these things, right? It's really about awareness. So it is, and again, kind of what the institutions could do. And Leisha, you're so right about these things being top down, right? The owners, the managers, the CEOs, all the leaders are the ones who set the tone. And so when we hear these things, or I've had this conversation with a number of gentlemen lately, because all of you have said the same thing, which is that Girls Who Print is for everyone, right? We know that men have extremely valuable relationships when they come to these events, when they listen to the things that we talk about, and it brings their awareness. Because I have been fascinated how many times recently, when I address some of these issues with a gentleman leader, the defensiveness that comes of, I have daughters, I don't do that. And I'm like, except you just did, right? Like that kind of thing is really fascinating. So again, it's really just a habit or a practice of kind of continuing to examine these things. And I mean, I can't think of another word, but call it out, right? And again, call it out kindly, right? We're not out here trying to cancel people. We're not trying to get people fired or anything. It really is just an awareness. And what Anna's talking about gives me so much hope for the future because, as she said, being in a room full of powerful, confident, capable women is just norm for her, right? That's baseline. That's just what it is. And so when she walked into D Scoop, she's like, what's with all the dudes, right? Like that's such a great way of looking at it because I think for Michelle and Leisha and I, we've been going to these shows. I don't want to speak for you, but for decades, right? And so it's
Yeah.
normal. We're more in the opposite, like, there's a girl, there's a girl, there's a girl, right? Um, so I know I started with Anna on this one. So Leisha, do you have anything to add about how these acts of encouragement and mentorship can help break down these stereotypes and these biases? What do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. Definitely, you have those relationships and there's stereotypes and biases, like if Anna and I were working together, there's like, well, how do young people really think, right? There's these stereotypes of, well, they don't want to work or, they're so whatever, fill in the blank, right? So by having these kind of mentorships, there's lots of stereotypes that can get broken down. They may have the same thing about us that we only want, Y or we only want Z. So I think they help us, like you said, you get as much out as you're giving. So I think just breaking down those barriers and communicating and like we said before, just normalizing this kind of stuff, I think will help, right? And as we communicate, hopefully some of those things will start to go away.
Yeah, it does. It sure seems like it because, again, having been in the industry for, 30 plus years, I see a sturdiness and a confidence in almost every young person that I've met. And again, I think they've just been raised in such a different environment that they can spot and identify and kind of call out what they would view as an injustice. And I can also say that because my kids do it a lot. And I'm like, I wasn't really looking for parenting advice for you, but thank you for pointing out that that I have apparently, committed some atrocity to their freedom or something like that. But honestly, that confidence and that the sensibility of fair, right? It really is centered around fairness. I mean, if you really think about what we
Yeah.
are trying to accomplish in the workplace is we
Mhm.
just want the same things that everybody else wants, right? Fair pay, the same kinds of sensibilities. And, Deborah and I talked about this a long time ago, that it is like, why is it always the woman that has to take a day off when the kid is sick? We
Mhm.
need to be recognizing fatherhood as a crucial part of society. So the reframe there is we need to make sure that they are now getting, and they're doing this in some states, right? New York has 12 weeks of paternity leave after a baby is born. It's mandated by the state, right? So that I think is going to go a long way to equalizing things and making things fair and making it so that families operate because everybody is able to, achieve their full potential, be in the workplace and be at home when it's necessary. But Michelle, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how we break down stereotypes and biases and what the companies can do and what we can do about that.
I love this question because I live it, right? And I think one of the things you said earlier that's been discussed here is how we would wish we had a time machine so we could go back and correct and readdress what's been said so that we could change how it looks, right? So I started practicing that, such as, oh, you're so lucky that you found that client. I'm like, no, I'm not lucky. I actually am hardworking. That's different, right? I'm not lucky because how would I be lucky if I'm working hard? We need to change that tone, right? Or I am a little bit intense. I can assume that, but I also have been called bossy. I'm like, I'm not bossy. I'm just detailed. I'm just, I want things to move forward so that we can move forward together as a team. So I correct people when they say things that don't match exactly what I'm trying to do because I didn't do that before. And I thought it was okay because eventually they would see it. And the truth is, we have to correct them so that they can see what we see. right? It's assertiveness. Thank you. It's, trying to lead, right? Being a leader where you're not fully in charge, but people see it differently. So I think I like that approach. But I also have noticed that when you do correct, people really like it. They don't dislike it, they understand it. It's so important for them to understand what you see. I think a lot of us women have internalized our emotions because we just deal with so much ongoing at home, at work, and different things. And we don't externalize it and say, no, 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 this is what it really looks like for me, so they can see what it looks like also, right? So I think that's super important. And in this mentorship program, mentorship indirectly that I've been doing with one of my coworkers, I have helped her with the same. She has encountered some disappointments and things that didn't work out the way that she thought would. And instead of her not speaking up, because she literally said, I'm just not going to talk about it anymore. I don't want to deal with it. And I said, no, 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 let's calm down, and tomorrow we will talk about it and you will address it and you will be able to rephrase it and reframe it so they can see what you see. Because if you don't do that now, 2 weeks from now, this may happen again and you're going to feel the same emotions without addressing it. So it takes time. I think we're trying to undo a lot of years of not opening up to what we really see.
There are a few things. I don't know how many of you on this call are mothers, but the only way that I can really frame this is to say that there are so many things that apply to kind of the world and life that I have only become more aware of. One of those is bullying, right? So, for example, and I think I talked about this on another one of these a while ago, so I do apologize if I'm being repetitive, but there's data out there that says that it only takes one person to speak up when a child is bullying somebody to get it's something like shortens the duration of the bullying session and creates fewer repeat offenses if only one kid can speak up. And again, so in a situation where you observe a male colleague saying something diminutive to a female colleague, it's only like, excuse me, sir, right? Don't, it is that the ability to kind of call it out. I think it is really so applicable. And so I can't even remember what the other thing I was going to say about it, but all of the stuff that we're talking about is so incredibly important because it's important to recognize that we are not alone, right? That Girls Who Print has built this entire framework of support and information and resources that we hope that people, kind of take back to their workplaces and apply in ways to, again, it's sort of that all boats rise in a tide concept, right? It's that we're all stronger when we're all stronger. So I think one of you mentioned early on that there is a phenomenon where some people feel like they get through the door and they slam it behind them, right? And that's kind of a scarcity mindset of like, well, I made it, and so I'm gonna occupy the space by myself or alone or something like that. But this kind of collaborative sensibility that we are all together in this, and when one of us succeeds, we all succeed, and we are taking these steps forward and making progress, so that we hope that by the time the next generation enters the workforce, which I believe they're being called Gen Alpha, by the time they get here, it'll be even more unusual, right? It'll be even less shocking the next time Anna steps on a D-scoop floor and sees, more women, and we see more female CEOs, and we see, more of those massive success stories. And again, I love what all of you have said about the fact that this isn't just about women, right? It is about men understanding these situations because they have a role to play in making things better and improving things too. And it isn't just that the thing isn't solved because they say, oh, well, I have daughters, I would never, right? Those kinds of things. So I also love that you all talked about the value of a movement, an existence of Girls Who Print as that support and as that place to go for resources and things like that, right? Because I've had a number of conversations with organizations who say, maybe it would just be better if we kind of put our company under the Girls Who Print umbrella, because one woman told me that when they started a women's group at their company, and it ended up being, meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning for a book club. It's like, that's not what we're talking about here. We're not asking, give them more work to do and have them do it in their own time. This is really about creating an entire, like I said, a movement or a framework around how everyone has a role to play in this. I'm hearing a lot about that confidence and the ability to, address things again, kindly and diplomatically, right? We don't want to, turn this into some kind of call out culture or something. But it's just really important that everyone know that you have literally thousands, if not tens of thousands of women in your corner supporting you, through events like this, through the mentorship program, through all of the programming that we're doing, and even at, places like D-Scoop. It's so great to be in person, right? And be able, like Michelle and I just got to meet each other for the first time. We've known each other for years, but it was at D-Scoop that we got to finally, meet in person. So I really want to thank you all so much for this. Again, I really wanted it to be kind of more of a tactical discussion, and not just it wasn't like a woo-woo topic. It really is about the importance of us building networks. Um, and if I would invite anybody, if you have any final thoughts, I want to thank you all so much for spending this time on your Friday afternoon or morning for Anna, because it's probably still relatively early in California. Does anybody have anything else they want to talk about? And then, yeah, I'll invite everybody else to turn on their cameras and join us. Deborah, you have anything you want to add to this?
Yes, I took some notes. I thought it was a great conversation. I want to address what you guys were saying about, speaking up in the meeting and saying, hey, maybe not say that. We had a really mind-blowing experience at FESPA, where we had an event and we had gentlemen in the room participating in discussion questions about the experience of women in the workplace, pretty much. And one of the takeaways was something that literally is the butterfly wing that creates the monsoon, that creates the tidal wave, or what do they call those? Yeah, the tidal wave, and tsunami, sorry. And what he said was that he realizes that he hears this all the time with the guys. Like, as soon as the women walk out of the room, they might, not in a way that is purposefully being derogatory to the woman, but unconscious bias comes in and they just start having conversations. And he was like, I've realized that I've been part of this for years, and now I know when I hear it, I have to say something, because otherwise I am contributing to the ongoing situation. So I thought that that was an amazing takeaway. So, and the point of that is that it is on each individual person to take control and ownership of their own experience. However, there are allies in the room, and sometimes the gentlemen are the best people to pull the one aside that is going to receive you in the way that you want to be received, and then just plant the seed. And Kelly said something very important. We're not the word police. We're not scolding anybody. We just say, how would you feel if somebody called your daughter, aggressive, or a bitch, I mean, it could go on the other way. So I thought that that was a great conversation to not just keep in yourself, but also look for allies in the room, because we really do need them. Struggle. I'm never going to agree that struggle is a word that you should say out loud in a workplace. Maybe it's because I'm a Gen Xer, I don't know, but I hear that word and I start, in my brain, I'm panicking now. I'm like, somebody I work with is telling me they're struggling, honestly, what does this mean for me? Do I have to do their job? Do I need to micromanage and see what's going on? That, because it's a work situation. So that's the first place I go to. I'm not saying millennials go that way. They might say, hey, come on, let's go have a tea and talk about it. Fantastic, lovely. But if you encounter people like me, you do not want to say struggle. So what I would suggest is that you ask for an opinion. Hey, what do you think about this? I've got, 87 things on my to-do list. And this morning, in the meeting, these 4 are the most important, we all agreed, but I'm not really sure I can get to all 4 in the manner that we want to do it. So what do you think I should do about that? Or, can anybody help me get these tasks done in the best way for the company? So you're turning it around from I'm struggling to, in order for all of us to present this in the best way, maybe we need to all come together and find a way to do that together. And it's not just on me, without moving into the whining, complaining. And notice I said whining. See, I did it myself. Like, I would never say whining about a guy. I wouldn't. I'd do the voice. I'd say, hey. Right. But so I just did it myself right there. Unconscious bias. But I'm catching myself now. Michelle, HP is a silver sponsor of Girls Who Print. So
Yes.
I have been contacting HP to make sure that all the employees know, but I'm going to find you after this meeting and give you everything you need so everybody at HP knows that they could be members of Girls Who Print right now.
I love that. Thank you.
So,
Yes, that'll be great.
you can be our internal champion.
Yes.
Okay, so the other thing about bubbly, that was a good one. Now, first of all, I would like to state on the record, I've never been accused of being bubbly. So I'm stretching here. So if somebody says you have such a bubbly personality, thank you. I have always had an outgoing personality. I've always been very sociable. I've always had the confidence to speak up in public situations. I looked it up. Yes, I've always been very friendly, and it has gotten me very far in my career. Yes, I love being an expressive person. So you can, when those words come at you, the only thing we can do is control how we react to them, because they're already coming at us, right? And let's just say we can never convince that person who's calling us bubbly that maybe that's not the best description. So you turn it around instead. And if they introduce you to people and say she's got such a bubbly personality, you take control of it. Thank you so much. Yes, I've always been very confident and expressive in my career, and it has gotten me so it has opened so many doors for me. Like, turn it around and take ownership of it, and take the power of bubbly away from someone who's saying it to you, and change it around so it's the word that you want to be described by. And usually what happens is the next time that person will change the word, or they won't say it at all. But you didn't have to have an altercation about it. And you didn't correct them in a way that they felt less, regardless of how they made you feel when they said bubbly, which is it's not a great word, because it's very like, oh, I'm so bubbly, and pink, lollipops and bubbles, and you don't associate bubbly with a killer businesswoman. So if you want to be a killer businesswoman, then you don't want to be bubbly. If you want to be a PR person or a marketing person that kind of does have to have a bubbly personality, it might not be such a bad thing to just be described as. as long as they know that it's your strategy and your professional training that have developed this bubbly personality in a work setting. I think that's all I wrote down.
Well,
Great
thank you.
conversation.
Those were all really good additions, because it is, and I love that you even pointed out kind of, we're all kind of trying to unwind from, some of us, decades and decades of kind of being steeped in this kind of stuff. And so the little kind of progress that we make, and the those kind of, ways to address some of those microaggressions, and do it again in a kind way that, preserves people's dignity and things like that, I think are really important, unless it gets, too off the rails. But, as much progress as we've made, and there's been a ton, there are still plenty of situations. I've witnessed a number of them recently that tell me that we still do have a lot of work to do, right? And so, as as people being out there in the world, I mean, that the tactical, I think, of that reframe of, not repeating the word but finding those synonyms, is incredibly important, and we all have a role to play there. So I thank you for all of those comments. It was really fantastic. So I just want to thank everybody for being here. I don't know if anybody has anything else. Leisha?
Just real quick, I wanted to thank Deborah and you, Deborah especially. You've been at this a really long time, and I know it's just a lot of work. I hope you're finally reaping your rewards with it becoming a nonprofit, and you've created this watering hole. I think of it as like the watering hole in the Sahara, right? You've just stayed at it so long, and finally now everybody knows this is the watering hole. The animals are going to come and they're going to get a drink. This is the place to quench your thirst. So thank you so much
Oh,
to both you.
Thank you very much.
that's really great. And yeah, and we still have a long way to go, right? Because as Michelle said, there are still people that don't know about us, and that's why we do all of these events, and are still working on so many other things. And it is really important. And as much progress as we've made, we've still got a long way to go. So we will be here as always, and you are a part of this too, all of you. So I want to thank everybody for being here. Michelle and Anna and Leisha, thank you so much. Deborah, thank you. And if that's all we got, we can wrap it up, and everybody can get back to their Friday. So I want to thank everyone so much. Yeah. We'll see you on another one of these Fierce Fabulous Fridays. Make sure you check the website often, because there's always
Yes.
something new going on.
Do the
Okay.
learning.
Thanks
Yeah.
for providing a forum for this. We
Of
appreciate
course.
it.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
Thanks for
you.
having us.
Thank you
That
so
was
much.
great.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care. And I will steal Deborah's phrase: empower long and prosper.